let's start with Dak. I do think it's funny that there's a lot of critics for Dak. And I listen, initially, I saw him in college. I didn't love his throwing motion. But last year when he connected with Amari Cooper, went 7-1 down the stretch, I just came to the realization you gave him a grown-up wide receiver in his prime. Amari's a good dude. And I'm like, okay, won 7 of 8 games. He got better. That, to me, was the moment. For Jared Goff, it was the Mahomes game. And I'm like, all right, sign the checks. When you're talking to sources around the league, what do they say about Dak?
Well, the initial bias against Dak is the fact that he went in the 4th round. So everyone wants to hold their judgment because that means 32 teams got it wrong 3 different times. And Connor Cook was taken right before him. I don't know where Connor Cook is playing right now. So people are always hesitant about saying, oh, Dak is amazing, because it's them admitting that, oh, wait, we were wrong 3 different times in 3 different rounds. That said, there's still not this overwhelming love for Dak, the player. There's always, he's got the great offensive line. He's got this. And now it's Kellen Moore. Like, they have a new offensive coordinator. Scott Linehan was running the same old offense the last 3 seasons for Dak. And as great as Dak was, and he won a playoff game last year, Kellen Moore has come in and has totally revitalized the excitement around this Cowboys offense. You're seeing Jason Witten get involved. You're seeing Amari have great games, but you're also seeing a new confidence in Dak Prescott. Kellen Moore is a 31-year-old offensive coordinator in a league where everyone's looking to don the next great offensive mind. He might be the guy right under our nose with the biggest spotlight team in the entire NFL, a former quarterback and a guy who, ironically, should have had that opportunity after Romo went down in the preseason a few years ago, but he also got injured, which led to Dak Prescott never giving up that throne as the quarterback. It's amazing. Kellen Moore might be the key to the Dallas Cowboys making a run to the Super Bowl this season.
So you did sidelines, and you picked this game months ago. You told our Fox executives, I want to be on the sideline for Baltimore, Arizona. And I got to tell you, I've seen enough of Lamar. I'm in. It works. And I like what Baltimore's doing with him. But Kyler now had over 300 yards with a bad O-line. I'm not that many games away with Kyler saying, all right, I'm in. I said to start my show today, I'm in on about 15 to 16 of the quarterbacks. You can have the rest and talk yourself into them. What was your takeaway on both Lamar and Kyler last week?
All right, Kyler, this team moved right up and down the field, and they would get in the red zone. It was like they couldn't punch it in. They settled for field goals. They had 3 different field goal attempts within the 5-yard line last week, which was the first time since 1974. So that's a crazy stat. Kyler will get going. I like what Cliff's doing with those guys. Lamar, though, Colin, I was a skeptic, and I don't mean a skeptic about the kid. I was a skeptic about this offense, how revolutionary it was going to be, because all offseason, everyone in the Ravens building was raving about Lamar Jackson's development and how it's going to be such an impressive performance, not from the running game, but from the passing game. And I said, all right, well, hold on, let's just see it. Guess what? I'm a believer. It was awesome. And it's not just him on the field within the hash marks. This guy has a charisma at the age of 22 that I can't really quantify with stats or numbers. I can only tell you anecdotally that Marshall Yonda, this old veteran offensive lineman, is following Lamar Jackson's lead. Mark Ingram played with Drew Brees for all these years, is following Lamar Jackson's lead. And we know how much that franchise loved Flacco. I didn't hear Flacco's name once last week. Everyone is all in on Lamar. And he might not necessarily have the sound bites of Baker Mayfield or the charisma of Gardner Minshew, who we saw last night. But Lamar Jackson has it. I can't quantify it. These guys love him. They play for him. And he is a Raven, which means a lot in that city.
By the way, I was just talking about Baker Mayfield's numbers, and we've seen this. You have a lot of sources. We've seen this for years, that Saban's defensive backs, he squeezes everything out of them. They don't have a second gear in the NFL. Pete Carroll's defensive guys at USC, many topped out. Jeff Tedford, quarterbacks not named Aaron Rodgers. He squeezes all the talent out. Lincoln Riley's making you and it looks like we could play in the Big 12. And I look at Baker Mayfield's stats, and I'm saying to myself, maybe he doesn't have a second gear. I mean, now, again, the offensive line's not great, but now Aaron Donald comes to town. Are there real concerns? Is it possible that we just jumped the gun too fast on the Baker fandom?
Look, you and I are often looked at as the Baker haters because we say, well, slow down here. They haven't really won anything yet. They won 7 games. They also lost 8 games and missed the playoffs last year. And this year, it's a slow build. It was almost like people were tweeting at me, Colin, when they're saying, look at, you love Kyler Murray. You love Kyler Murray. But look at Baker. They just blew out the Jets. And I'm like, well, slow down. They got the Rams next week. Let's see. The truth of the matter is this. That offensive line in Cleveland is not good, and Aaron Donald is good, and so is Dante Fowler. So is a bunch of different guys. So I think Sunday night is another opportunity for us on a national stage to see how Baker Mayfield is. Look, it's all great when you beat the Jets and Odell has an 80-yard play. Let's see as the season gets on and the weather gets cold. I'm with you on this one. Let's pump the brakes on the Browns offense being this high-fly machine, and let's maybe pump the brakes on Baker until we see him do it against Aaron Donald in his face.
By the way, an interesting number. Our staff has this. Baker Mayfield's career against Cincinnati, he's Joe Montana. 2-0, 7 touchdowns, no picks, and a passer rating of 135. Against everybody else, for our FS1 listeners, look at the numbers to the right. He almost has as many picks as touchdowns. He's 5-8 and a quarterback rating of 86. Again, all we're saying here is just slow down. Cincinnati had the 5th worst defense in league history last year. Now, you're in New York. Let's talk Eli. I honestly feel I like the Giants this weekend. I think that Daniel Jones, it's almost like Kyler to Arizona replacing Josh Rosen. There's an energy. I feel like, oh, this is going to be fun. I don't think the Giants are a Super Bowl team. How is it landing in New York with the new kid, the rookie, coming in for the legacy guy?
Colin, you and I look at things from like 30,000 feet, and it's not just week to week, it's NFL. The Giants were stale. And it's not just this year. It was last year. It was the year before. And here we are, week 3, Giants at Tampa Bay, 4 o'clock window. I don't know who was signing up to watch that game. They announced Daniel Jones as the starter. And suddenly I look at that 4 o'clock window and I say, well, Breeze isn't playing for the Saints. And I don't know about this game. I don't know about Mason Rudolph. I don't know if I want to watch. It's the game in the 4 o'clock window. It is the game. I want to see what Daniel Jones brings. I want to see how the Giants come out of the gates. And I think there's some sizzle to the New York Giants. And they ripped the Band-Aid off, and no one is now being blindsided by it. They drafted the guy in April. You knew this was eventually going to happen. Last week, I had a lot of friends who were at Giants Stadium or MetLife, whatever it's called right now, and they said there were a lot of Bills fans in the building, and it kind of felt like this is the end of the era. So they ripped the Band-Aid off, and there's at least another restart and some recharge to the Giants. They were on the back page all this week in New York in the tabloids. I can't tell you the last time they actually mattered in a football conversation in New York, let alone big picture NFL. 4 o'clock window, that's your game. Daniel Jones, I can't wait to see it.
Finally, Tennessee, they're moving off Marcus Mariota. I think they should have moved off 2 years ago, but last night was, nail coffin, right? Like, they're done with Mariota.
Yeah, look, this is the 5th year of his contract. They had the opportunity to give him the big contract extension. They didn't. They said, let's play this thing out. I'm not announcing their starter from here on out. They didn't replace him last night, but that was again, sizzle. That was as boring. Like, what are you getting here? That was as boring a game last night as you could ever imagine from a quarterback in a big spot on national TV. And it's like, here we go again, 5th year of the Mariota experience. A big win week 1, a terrible loss week 2, a terrible loss week 3. And maybe it's not all Marcus Mariota's fault. But the Tennessee Titans are not in a major market. They're in Nashville, Tennessee. They had a primetime game last night, and we come away with it talking about Gardner Minshew and Calais Campbell. We're not talking about the Titans. Last night I give Buck, Aikman, Aaron, Christina Pink, and the producer, Richie Zients, whoever else is on that crew, so much credit because that did not feel like a game that mattered, and yet you're watching it on NFL Network, and it's all of our top talent from Fox, and you're like, they're giving it their all. Like, we're trying here. But if we don't hear about the Titans for a couple more weeks and maybe a couple more months, I wouldn't be shocked. This is just one of those teams that until there's a big splash change, I can't get on board and say, yes, I'm convinced. This is the team I want to follow. This is the team I want to watch. And maybe it's the quarterback position that they've got to switch up. Peter
Schrager, Fox Sports NFL reporter. By the way, New York Times bestseller, Out of the Blue. He's on the NFL Network. Good Morning Football in the morning. Good seeing you, buddy.
I will see you Sunday, Fox NFL Kickoff. Love doing that show with you.
All right, Schrag, so do I. Love it. Blazing 5, top of the hour. Coming up, pretty interesting. So PFF, Pro Football Focus, does this data stuff, and I'm into it totally. And I know sometimes it can be boring, but the data has compiled, tells you the weakness of all 32 quarterbacks. It's pretty interesting. Sometimes, mostly, your eyes are right, but there is one criticism that many of the top quarterbacks have, and I don't view it as a criticism. That is coming up. Hard to believe summer now is officially in the rear view mirror. Yep, we're now moving late September into October. Get stuff cleaned up before the holidays makes you busy. LLC